Hello, my name is Consuelo. I am a 44-year-old mother, wife, and family nurse practitioner. Throughout my life, I've struggled with my weight and my own health problems. As a patient, I realize that the healthcare system is not designed to help patients understand their health. Now, in my own practice, I enjoy helping patients learn what is really going on in their bodies so that they can make better decisions for themselves. My motto is good health, good vibes, happy life. I hope you join us and make us part of your health journey. Now, on to today's health talk. Information provided on this channel is for educational and informational purposes only and is not intended as medical advice. I am not your medical provider, and this content is not a substitute for seeking medical care, diagnosis, or treatment. Always consult with your healthcare provider before starting any supplement, medication, or health program, especially if you have medical conditions or are taking prescription medications. Statements regarding supplements have not been evaluated by the Food and Drug Administration. These products are not intended to diagnose, treat, cure, or prevent any disease. Use of any information provided on this channel without first consulting with your healthcare provider is solely at your own risk. Hey guys, welcome back. I'm so excited you're here. I hope you've been able to enjoy some of my other videos. I thought I'd have a little change in scenery today, and instead of the fish tank, I thought I'd go ahead and match my curtains. I didn't realize how much the shirt matches these curtains until I started filming. I'm still getting used to this being in front of the camera stuff. I feel like such a goober. I hope it's one of those things that in 6 months I'll look back and say, wow, I'm so much better at this now. I know a lot of the YouTubers I watch tend to get better with time. Today, I want to talk about muscle and the really important things it does in our body. I'll be going through some slides like I did on the previous videos. I hope you guys like that. And I'll be sharing just how cool and amazing muscle is in our body. After we get through the slides, I'd like to share my own personal epiphany I had when I realized muscle really is our secret weapon in dealing with metabolic dysfunction and trouble with weight loss. I will tell you, my mind was blown. So let's get into it. Let's talk about muscle. Okay, let's get into it. Let's talk about muscles and just how cool they really are. There are three different types of muscle in our body. There is skeletal muscle. It is voluntary and striated, and it's responsible for movement and metabolic activity. So this is like your biceps, triceps, abs, etc. Then there is cardiac muscle. Cardiac muscle powers the heart. It works involuntarily with unique electrical properties for continuous beating. I always say our most important muscle is our heart. Smooth muscle controls internal organs and blood vessels, operating involuntarily to regulate bodily functions, including our blood pressure levels. Muscle isn't just for movement or aesthetics, it's a metabolically active organ that talks to nearly every system in our body. Blood sugars, hormones, immune system, bones, brain, and even longevity. It affects all of that. Think of muscle as your body's engine, shock absorber, glucose sponge, hormone factory. Let's break it down. Muscle tissue burns calories 24/7, even when you're sleeping. Muscle requires constant energy to maintain electrical gradients, repair micro damage, turn over proteins. Fat tissue requires very little energy by comparison. Why this matters? More muscle leads to higher resting metabolic rate. Loss of muscle leads to slower metabolism, which leads to easier weight gain. This is why two people of the same weight can eat the same amount, but the person with more muscle stays lean and the person with less muscle gains fat. Ladies, this is also why we can diet all month and only lose a couple of pounds, and our husbands can take the creamer out of their coffee and can lose 20 pounds. Maybe not really, but men naturally have more muscle mass than women and oftentimes have a little easier time with weight loss. Of course, that's not the case for every man, but it does tend to be a thing. Let's talk about calorie burning at rest, muscle versus fat tissue. Muscle metabolic activity, muscle tissue burns around 6 calories per pound daily, making it highly metabolically active compared to fat. Fat metabolic activity, fat burns approximately 2 calories per a pound daily, showing lower metabolic activity than muscle. The impact on resting metabolic rate, higher muscle mass elevates the resting metabolic rate, aiding calorie burn and weight management. During activity, muscle burns significantly more energy when it's being used. Fat tissue mostly stores energy and does not contribute much to calorie burning during movement. However, it is difficult to calculate exact calorie burned per pound during activity because energy use depends on exercise intensity, the type of movement, the number of muscles involved, and the conditioning level. What we do know is that muscle increases activity calorie burn because more muscle mass increases total energy demand during movement. Stronger muscles allow for higher intensity exercise, and muscle improves metabolic flexibility, better fuel use. Estimated activity differences, while the exact numbers vary, research suggests that each additional pound of muscle may burn 7 to 10 extra calories during moderate daily activity, more during intense activity. So, in a typical day, 1 pound of muscle can burn around 10 to 15 calories a day, while 1 pound of fat will only burn 2 to 3 calories per day. The difference, muscle burns roughly 8 to 12 more calories per pound per day than fat when including activity. But more muscle makes movement easier and more efficient, which often leads to more spontaneous activity. So when we're stronger, moving is easier, we feel better, we're more likely to engage in more activity, which again then just leads to more calorie burn. Muscle is the number one blood sugar regulator. Muscle is the largest glucose disposal organ in the body. Approximately 70 to 80% of post-meal glucose is cleared by your muscles. Muscles can absorb glucose with insulin or without insulin during exercise. This is huge because the more muscle equals more storage space for glucose. Less muscle equals more glucose staying in the bloodstream, which leads to higher insulin levels. Over time, chronic high insulin leads to insulin resistance. Insulin resistance leads to fat storage and inflammation and increased diabetes risk. This is why resistance training is one of the most powerful tools for preventing and improving insulin resistance, even without weight loss. So, heads up, if you have not watched my video about insulin resistance, I would definitely recommend it. It has some really good information. Know that muscle is considered an endocrine organ. When muscle contracts, they release signaling molecules called myokines. Think of them as chemical messengers that allow your muscles to communicate with the rest of your body. When you move your muscles, whether walking, lifting weights, or doing household activities, your muscle cells release myokines into the bloodstream. These signals travel throughout the body and influence many organs, including the brain, the liver, fat tissue, pancreas, and immune system. Why myokines are important? Myokines are one of the major reasons exercise had such powerful health benefits. They help regulate blood sugar, fat metabolism, inflammation, brain function, immune health, heart health. In simple terms, when you use your muscles more, they release beneficial signals that improve how your whole body works. So, how myokines work in the body? First, improving blood sugar control. Some myokines help muscles take in glucose from the bloodstream and use it for energy. This helps lower blood sugar, improve insulin sensitivity, and reduce the risk of type 2 diabetes. This is one reason why exercise is the most powerful treatments for insulin resistance. Two, they help burn fat. Certain myokine signals to fat tissues that encourage the body to break down stored fat, use fat for energy, and reduce unhealthy visceral fat around the organs. Some myokines can even help convert white fat into metabolically active brown fat, which burns more calories. Three, reducing inflammation. Chronic inflammation contributes to many diseases, including diabetes, heart disease, obesity, and arthritis. Exercise induced myokines help lower inflammatory signals in the body and promote healing. This is why regular physical activity can improve many chronic conditions. Four, supporting brain health. Some myokines travel to the brain and stimulate the production of brain growth factors. These effects can help improve memory, support learning, reduce risk of dementia, improve mood, and reduce anxiety and depression. This helps explain why people often feel mentally better after exercise. Five, protecting the heart. Myokines help improve cardiovascular health by improving blood vessel function, reducing inflammation in arteries, supporting healthy cholesterol metabolism. Regular muscle activity is strongly linked with lower risk of heart disease. Example of important myokines. Here are a few well-known myokines that researchers have studied. Irisin, sometimes called the exercise hormone, it helps convert white fat into more metabolically active fat, which can increase energy burning. Interleukin 6 is released during exercise and actually has anti-inflammatory effects and helps improve glucose metabolism. BDNF, also called brain derived neurotrophic factor. This supports brain cell growth and function. It's important for learning, memory, and brain health. This helps explain why strength training improves depression and anxiety and protects against Alzheimer's. Myostatin, this myokine actually limits muscle growth. And in exercise and resistance training, can help reduce myostatin activity, allowing muscles to grow stronger. Protects bones and joints. Muscle and bone work as a unit. Muscle contraction pulls on the bone, and then the bone adapts by becoming denser. Loss of muscle equals loss of mechanical loading, which leads to bone loss. This is why we recommend weight bearing exercises for at least 30 minutes, 5 days per week to help protect and increase bone density. For postmenopausal women, it's also important to get 1,200 milligrams of calcium daily with vitamin C. This matters because sarcopenia, which is the medical term for muscle loss, leads to osteoporosis, which leads to fractures. Falls are more about weak muscles than weak bones. Stronger muscles helps stabilize joints, reduce arthritis pain, and improves balance and coordination. Strong muscles also support balance and reduce the risk of falls among older adults, enhancing overall mobility. And neuromuscular coordination improves reaction time and postural stability, critical for fall prevention. Strength training enhances proprioception and supports independence by lowering injury related morbidity. So, as we're aging, that muscle becomes even more important to help protect us from injury and helps reduce our pain. So here's a little more information on how weight bearing exercise leads to increased bone density. Mechanical muscle forces. Muscle contraction generates mechanical forces that stimulate bone, essential for bone remodeling and strength. Mechanical stimulation activates osteoblasts, and these are the cells responsible for new bone formation and mineralization. This muscle bone interaction increases bone mineral density, reducing osteoporosis and fracture risks in the elderly. Know that muscle is a predictor of longevity. Low muscle mass and strength are strongly associated with higher mortality, longer hospital stays, and poor recovery from illness or surgery. Grip strength alone predicts cardiovascular death, all cause mortality, and functional independence in old age. And why is that? Muscle is a reserve system. During illness, your body uses muscle's amino acids to survive. So, less muscle equals less resilience. That's why I always say you can take a pretty healthy 85-year-old or 90-year-old, and you give them a really severe illness, they will have a really hard time recovering because they just have less muscle mass. But I certainly do have some patients in their 80s and 90s who have done a fantastic job of preserving their muscle mass, and they can do extremely well even if they do get a serious illness. It's really about how much effort we put into exercise and preserving that muscle as we age. Muscle loss is silent and it accelerates with age. After age 30, muscle loss begins at approximately 3 to 8% per decade. And after 60, the rate accelerates even more. Without resistance training, you lose muscle even if your weight stays the same. Fat replaces the muscle, and this is what we will call normal weight obesity, or sometimes we call it skinny fat. This is why the scale lies. Body composition matters far more than our BMI. For women, this can start even earlier. Many women tend to significantly undereat protein. We're not as good about strength training. We also tend to go on more restrictive diets that negatively impact our muscle mass. This leads to slow muscle loss that accelerates as we age. And many women will blame perimenopause and menopause for the reason they gain weight, when in fact it has more to do with the fact that they've been having an increase of that muscle mass over the years, and now it's just catching up to them, that slowed down metabolism. The good news is, with some effort, you can get that muscle mass back and reverse some of those issues. So, muscles improve hormonal health. Strength training improves hormonal signaling without medications. In my video about insulin resistance, I talk about how muscle reduces insulin levels, since it's essentially a giant glucose sponge, which helps keeps blood sugar lowered. So that's definitely one hormone that it influences. Muscle also influences appetite hormones. Muscle activity helps regulate hormones that control hunger and fullness. Exercise can help balance hormones such as ghrelin, the hormone that stimulates hunger, and leptin, the hormone that signals fullness. Regular physical activity can improve the body's sensitivity to leptin, helping people feel satisfied after eating. This may help reduce overeating and improve weight management. Muscle also supports stress hormone balance. Physical activity helps regulate cortisol, the body's main stress hormone. Chronically high cortisol levels can contribute to fat gain, especially abdominal fat, insulin resistance, sleep problems, and fatigue. Exercise helps the body use cortisol appropriately and may help lower chronically elevated levels over time. Muscle helps support the sex hormones. Healthy muscle mass is linked to better balance of important sex hormones such as estrogen in women and testosterone in men and women. These hormones help maintain bone density, muscle strength, metabolic health, and energy levels. Strength training can stimulate hormone pathways that support muscle maintenance and overall hormonal balance. Muscle improves fat hormone signaling. Fat tissues release a hormone called adipokines, and that influences metabolism. When a person has excess body fat, these signals can become unhealthy and promote inflammation. Increasing muscle mass helps improve fat metabolism, which reduces harmful inflammatory signals, improves communication between fat and muscle tissue. This supports healthier hormonal balance overall. Muscle helps regulate growth and repair hormones. Exercise stimulates the release of hormones involved in tissue repair and regeneration, including growth hormone and insulin like growth factor. These hormones help the body repair tissues, maintain muscle mass, and support metabolism and improve recovery. Dieting, muscle preservation, and the risk of rebound weight gain. Muscle loss during dieting. Calorie restriction can cause muscle mass loss, leading to a reduced metabolic rate and higher risk of weight regain. Resistance training benefits. Incorporating resistance training helps preserve muscle mass during calorie restriction, supporting metabolic health. Protein intake importance. Adequate protein consumption supports muscle preservation and mitigates metabolic slowdown during dieting. This is the big problem I've seen with the GLP-1 medications. They are obviously very potent appetite suppressors. They also tend to cause nausea, which keeps people from wanting to eat. I have warned my patients that even when you do not want to eat, you absolutely need to hit your protein goals to maintain your muscle mass. And better yet, hit protein goals and add weight training to try and build muscle mass so that once you come off the medication, you can actually maintain that weight loss. Check out my video about GLP-1 medications for some more tips and tricks on how to be more successful with these medications. Muscle do you actually need? There's no single ideal muscle number, but we use functional and metabolic factors. Functional benchmarks are the most practical. You likely have adequate muscle mass if you can perform 10 to 15 controlled body weight squats, carry groceries without strain, rise from the floor without assistance, that's a big one, and maintain strong grip strength. Of course, things like carpal tunnel can affect that, but otherwise, that's another predictor. Strength predicts health more reliably than weight. Body composition targets, general guidance here. For women, healthy body fat percentage is between 20 to 30%. Skeletal muscle mass is typically 30 to 40% of total body weight. It's concerning if lean mass is steadily declining with age. There are places you can go to have these things measured. There's some gyms that have the machines that do it. Some of the bariatric clinics have it. For men, the healthy body fat is 10 to 20%. Skeletal muscle mass is going to be about 40 to 50% of body weight. More important than exact numbers is, are you losing muscle year to year? Is fat replacing muscle? Is strength improving or declining? So, how much protein do you need to eat each day? Protein intake is one of the biggest determinants of muscle preservation. Protein is the body's building block for making muscle. You should either use ideal body weight or adjusted body weight for these calculations. If you weigh 275 pounds, you do not need to be eating 218 grams of protein daily. You can find calculators online that help you figure out what your ideal body weight or adjusted body weight is. For minimum amount of protein to prevent deficiency, this is going to be around 0.8 grams per kilogram per day. This is survival level, not always necessarily optimal. To maintain muscle, this is going to be for most adults, 1.2 to 1.6 grams per kilogram per day. In case you don't know, to get your weight in kilograms, you will take your weight in pounds and divide it by 2.2, and that will be your weight in kilograms. To build muscle or during fat loss, you should be getting 1.6 to 2.2 grams per kilogram per day. So let's give a quick example. For a 170-pound woman, this would mean that that person was 77 kilograms. Maintenance would be approximately 90 to 120 grams of protein per day. Building or fat loss would be around 120 to 150 grams per day. Um, I will use my current weight as an example. I am still on the journey. I like to tell everyone my journey's not over yet. I still have weight to lose. And some people say, well, how can you teach other people about weight loss if you haven't even met your own goal? If anything, I think that helps me better because I know the struggle. I've been there. I'm still living it right now. And I think a lot of my patients get some comfort in knowing that I'm not judging them ever. I know how hard all of this is. I also have the knowledge. I'm a pretty smart person. I went to school a long time. I know a lot of things. So I think I do a really good job of helping people to understand. So back to me. My current weight is 200 pounds. I am 5 foot 9 inches tall. Using an online calculator, my ideal weight is 145.9 pounds, and my adjusted body weight is 167.6 pounds. For this, I'm going to use my adjusted body weight. So that would be 167.6 divided by 2.2, which is 76 kilograms. So to maintain my muscle mass, I need 91 to 121 grams of protein daily. And to build muscle or during fat loss, which is where I'm at right now, I need 121 to 167 grams of protein daily. Distribution matters on this. So muscle protein synthesis is triggered best by getting around 25 to 40 grams of protein per a meal. So that's 3 to 4 meals per day, and each meal hitting around 2.5 grams of the leucine threshold. So we'll go into more about that a little later on. I'll have a separate video about specific proteins and all that stuff. So one large dinner protein load is less effective than spreading it out. There are some people that are really into the whole one meal a day. Some people can pull that off. That's kind of a hard thing to do because then you have to get all of your day's protein in that one meal. I don't know that most people would be up to that. I also think it's kind of a hard thing to do, but some people are really into it, and there has been some, data that shows it's good for metabolic health. But again, that's a rare thing, and you'd have to do it very carefully. Just a reminder, certain health conditions will affect how much protein you should eat, such as chronic kidney disease. You should always discuss your specific needs with your healthcare provider. So obviously, if you have chronic kidney disease, you don't need to be super loading on the protein. It could really stress those drama queen kidneys out. How to build muscle without bulking. Most women fear bulking. They think, I don't want to lift weights because I don't want to get bulky. That's actually kind of hard to do. You actually have to be very intentional to bulk up. You need a large calorie surplus, uh, higher testosterone, and you need to be doing some real heavy lifting to get that bulking. So most people, you're not going to look like Arnold Schwarzenegger after you're lifting. To build lean muscle mass without size gain, you want a progressive overload. 3 to 4 days a week with the resistance training. You want to just use moderate weights. You want to do about 8 to 12 reps and then 2 to 4 sets per muscle group. You want to eat at a maintenance calorie or a slight deficit. We shouldn't be doing any crazy deficits. You can build muscle, lose fat, improve insulin sensitivity, simultaneously improve your insulin resistance. Adequate protein, critical for recomposition. You have to be getting that protein in. If you're not getting your protein, you could be doing all the exercises. You're actually going to be breaking down your muscle, and then your body is not going to have its building blocks to rebuild it. So that is key. You've got to get the protein in. And then prioritize sleep. Poor sleep increases cortisol, which increases muscle breakdown. Be on my lookout for my video talking about the importance of good sleep. I will be doing that. What actually happens as muscle increases, your fat decreases. The scale may not move. I tell patients this all the time. You may not see a change on the scale, but you will be losing inches. Your clothes should fit better. Also, your insulin sensitivity is going to improve. This is body recomposition. Um, I can't remember when I first saw the picture that's up here on the screen, but I always thought it gave a good visual on how the same weight can look differently depending on height and build. This is why I always recommend taking measurements. Sometimes we get so wrapped up on the number on the scale, and then we don't realize that there are other very important things happening with our health as we're dieting and exercising. The big picture takeaway: muscle is not optional, it is foundational biology. More muscle means a better blood sugar control, higher metabolism, lower inflammation, stronger bones, better brain health, greater independence as you age. Man, I tell you what, making this presentation was such a great reminder to me just how amazing and cool muscle really is. Really, the entire human body is incredibly amazing. So, like I said, I wanted to share my own personal story, my own personal epiphany with regards to recognizing the importance of muscle. As I shared in my introduction video, I had the gastric sleeve at the end of 2024. Leading up to the surgery, they make you take a bunch of classes. And I have to admit, I was a little cocky thinking, I don't know what they're going to teach me. Obviously, working as a provider, having gone to school, I know a lot about the human body. I thought I knew all the things, but just still struggled due to lots of factors, stress and anxiety. I have to say, it wasn't that they taught me anything new necessarily, but it was how they framed some of the information that really made it click for me. And they did discuss, like I mentioned before, that women tend to significantly undereat protein our entire lives. We also tend to not focus on strength training, and we tend to go on those really restrictive diets that really decrease our muscle mass. And so then we start building up that loss of muscle mass, which wrecks our metabolism. They also talked about how we tend to significantly underestimate how much protein we eat. So one of the first things they had us do leading up to the surgery, the first week they said, hey, buy a food scale and start closely tracking that protein intake just to see how far off the mark we were. And I thought to myself, I don't think I'm probably going to be that far off the mark. I'm definitely not a vegetarian. We eat meat every night at dinner. When I started closely tracking, I was way off the mark. I was only getting about 40 to 45 grams of protein daily. And that really shocked me. So leading up to the surgery, they had us start working to consistently hit those protein goals. This is when I realized how hard it is to get 120 grams of protein a day while also trying to not eat an excessive amount of calories. So I definitely started utilizing those protein shakes to make that a little easier. One of the first things I noticed when I was consistently hitting those protein goals was that almost immediately I felt a major shift in my energy levels. I had so much more energy, like way more than I've had in a long time. And I definitely think part of that was that it was keeping my blood sugars more balanced. I was getting off that insulin resistance blood sugar roller coaster that I had been on for so long. So fast forward, I had my surgery and I lost my first 25 pounds pretty fast. And then it literally just stopped. I was stalled for several weeks. And I tell you what, I was so upset. I thought, man, I didn't just spend thousands of dollars and surgically altered my digestive system just to lose 25 pounds. But then I remembered just how much they had stressed the importance of weight training and rebuilding muscle. And I had been doing cardio at home, but I wasn't really doing the weight training. So I joined Planet Fitness to start the weight training. And my first day in the gym was an eye-opener. I did not realize how much muscle mass I had lost. I could barely lift any weight. I was so weak. It was really shocking to me. So I started going 2 to 3 days per week to do their 30-minute circuit. And there was definitely a direct correlation with how much weight I could lift and what was happening on my scale. As I started getting stronger, the weight just started coming off much quicker. Probably the fastest weight loss I've ever had in my life. My energy is better now than when I was in my 20s. I feel more free with food than I've ever felt. I always thought to myself that I couldn't eat carbs because it would just make me gain weight. And when my insulin resistance was really bad and I was sedentary, that was definitely true. Now I give myself the grace to have the pizza or have the pasta, but then I follow it up with a Peloton boot camp. And I know my muscles are going to soak up all that glucose and make energy for me. It's amazing. Another amazing thing has been a huge reduction in the joint pain and muscle pain and headaches. I had myself tested for autoimmune diseases several times because I just never felt well, and I had myself convinced that I must have an autoimmune disease or something else must be really wrong to make me feel so bad. Us healthcare workers tend to have a bad habit of wanting to diagnose ourselves with stuff. It really was just all of that inflammation that was being created by the metabolic dysfunction happening in my body. As I've lost the weight, everything has really improved. I sure do hope that you learned something helpful today and in this video. Like I said before, if you have any questions, drop them in the comments. I'm really going to try and get to as many of those as I can. If you have any ideas for future videos, also drop that in the comment. I will do my best to come up with some high quality information for those videos. I really am super proud of you for showing up for your health, and again, thank you for making me part of your health journey. I hope you have a great day, and until next time. As always, if you enjoyed today's video, please hit the like button. Maybe even drop a comment telling us what you liked and even what you did not like. If you want to see future videos, hit that subscribe button. This will also really help to support our channel and help us reach more people. Also, visit our website at goodhbl.com. This is where you will find the products that we talk about, but also downloadable versions of all the information we make videos about so you can use it for future reference. And again, thank you for making us part of your health journey.